Okay, sorry, this took so long for me. So, this is another Mr. Ed book reading I'm about to do, so... I think I'll die for being inactive on December 1st, so I put a warning saying that the inactive accounts will be deleted. So you put the description to have your account saved. So this one is Little Miss Curious. Right here. This reminds me of Little Miss Curious Fan 2023. So, she is called Alphabet Lore and South Park fan. So this is Little Miss Curious, so let's read it. Little Miss Curious is a very curious sort of person. Just look at her house. It's a very curious shape, isn't it? Now look at her garden. That's curious too, isn't it? Now look at Little Miss Curious. She's rather curious looking too. And she also has a very curious nature. She wants to know the how, why, and what of everything. One day, Little Miss Curious set off for town. Why do doors squeak but are not small and furry with pink ears and long tails? She asked her door as she went out. Understandably, the door didn't answer. Why do flowers live in beds but never sleep? She asked the flowers in her garden. They just smiled knowingly. Then she saw a worm. Why do worms in nonsense land wear bow ties? She asked. That's for me and to know and you to find out about, said the worm, laughing. Later on the way down, Little Miss Curious met Mr. Nonsense. Are you curious to find out what she asked him? Well, go and then turn over. I'm curious, began Little Miss Curious, to know why is it that sandwiches are called sandwiches and they don't have sand in them. It just so happens, said Mr. Nonsense, that this is a sand sandwich. I'm rather partial to sand. Happy Christmas, he said. Then Mr. Nonsense ran away, holding his sandwich carefully so that the sand didn't fall out. Little Miss Curious eventually arrived in town. Did I hear you ask why? Well, you are curious, aren't you? But are you as curious as Little Miss Curious? Little Miss Curious has gone to town to visit the library. I wonder, would you be able to ask me? She asked. Of course, said Mrs. Page, the librarian. What are you looking for? I'm looking for a book, began Little Miss Curious. A book that will tell me why the sky is blue, and why combs have teeth but can't bite, and why chairs have legs but can't play football, and why... She went on and on and on, and so there was a very long queue behind her that was growing longer by the minute. What in the actual world? A crowd of people are there. This Little Miss Scatterbrain, she died in August 8 in a car crash. I could see Little Miss Naughty from really far away. I could see Little Miss Sunshine in the back, Mr. Noisy, and the Little Miss Fun. I look like her. It looks like this Little Miss Fun is in the back. And there's Little Miss Bossy, and there's Little Miss Helpful without her fanny. So she keeps going on, asking about what book she wants. That's enough, cried Mrs. Page. Next, please. But why? Little Miss Curious started to ask. But without quite knowing how or why, she started to find herself out in the street. How curious, Little Miss Curious thought to herself. As she walked along the street, Little Miss Curious asked herself, why is everybody giving me such a curious look? And why is Little Miss Careful waving her umbrella at me? Is this because it was going to rain? We don't think so. Little Miss Curious ran off. Are you going to ask why? Are you becoming as curious as Little Miss Curious? Can you guess where she ran off to? Neither can I. Come back, Little Miss Curious, and tell us where you're going. You see, we're all ever so curious. Yes, really we are. Working at the
college blues gets me every time.
What the heck is going on with your mic?